I love Pikmin. I was raised on strategy games and Pikmin perfectly clicks for me. Managing my time and multitasking is so incredibly fun. However, I haven't played all of the Pikmin games yet. Don't get me wrong, I've loved what I've played, but I haven't gotten around to finishing all of them. So I decided I would start Pikmin 3. Also, this will be on the main campaign, not the side modes. Let's Pikmin. This game was in the oven for 9 years and it really shows. This is definitely the most polished Pikmin game. The AI was improved a good amount. They follow your path pretty closely and you won't have to worry about them randomly doing something stupid and dying. But that doesn't hold a candle to Go Here. It is a godsend. It amplifies your multitasking to an insane degree. In areas like the Twilight River, I can't imagine having to wait for these lily pads while not being allowed to do anything else. And just being able to have one captain fight an enemy while the other walks through a fruit is a game changer. You move slower while Go Hearing, which is more of a good thing since it guarantees your Pikmin won't separate. Go Here can also be used to navigate maps you aren't familiar with. You also have 3 captains instead of 2, which is the most insane change, but it doesn't detract from anything and is very useful every once in a while. You can throw your captains, which allows for more verticality and allows for puzzles like, here, there's a weight puzzle you need to do in order to grab a fruit. You could cheese the second fruit with wings, but if you don't, it's great as well. All of these really elevate multitasking and improve gameplay in general. Another thing they added was charging, and I'm mixed on it. It's a replacement for swarming, and it's an easier version of that. With swarming, you had to get really close, so there was more of a risk to it, and it wasn't really the greatest, but that was kind of the point. I guess it makes sense why they changed it, but charging can make things a little too easy. It's done by locking on, which is more of a Z target compared to 3 Deluxe and 4's lock on. But that's fine, you don't really need lock on if you have Wiimote controls. You need to hold down a button to lock on while pointing at something, and that can feel a little clunky sometimes. It also takes time compared to 4 where you just press a button and they instantly charge. A big improvement is the boss fights. The previous game's bosses were more like big enemies, but here they feel like actual bosses. They have this huge sense of scale. One of my favorites is the Behemoth Fossbat. It shows off the L's abilities really well and can get a little tense when you're trying to bring all the bridge pieces and avoid the baby Fossbats. It's an easy boss, but it's very engaging. The Scornet Maestro is an amazing concept. It also controls an army of little things with sound. It would have been a pretty hard boss, but you can save your Pikmin, so yeah, all the challenge basically disappears. The Quaggled Myroclops is the biggest boss. Pikmin has the best names of any video game ever, don't even try to bait me. He's gigantic, and while the boss is simple, he's an amazing spectacle. Basically, you need to throw Pikmin onto his feet. Keep in mind, he's immune to Rock Pikmin. Rock Pikmin will make his feet red, but won't cause him to fall. His steps create puddles, which can drown your Pikmin. They add some more complexity since there are more things to avoid. His tongue attack can kill your Pikmin, and I like how it punishes you for being too greedy. It's just a great boss. In terms of mini bosses, Shaggy Longlegs is great. You need to get rid of the hairs on his legs, which exposes his weak point. It's a nice spin on the typical Longlegs fight. I'm sad they weren't in 4. I like him having 2 phases, it makes the fight a bit more complex. The other mini bosses are pretty bad though. Stagrets are hilariously weak to the point where I barely consider them a mini boss. And the bug-eyed Crawmad just gets humiliated by winged Pikmin. And even ignoring that, he's very easy. The big final boss is the Plasm Wraith. He's probably my favorite overall. The pre-boss fight has you get Olimar at the end while the Plasm Wraith chases you. The strategy is to keep the Plasm Wraith running in circles while the rest of your team clears a path. The Pikmin community seems to be a bit on the older side, or at least some of the YouTubers. So I don't know if I'll get shit for this, but fuck it. It feels like FNAF where you're constantly switching between different points. It's really tense and a different kind of time management. You need to beat enemies and build things while there's the threat of the Plasm Wraith. The fucking snitch bugs are here, that's great. Thank God they have less health from Pikmin 1 and you can actually point at them. TS was overall a very fun section, and then you fight the actual boss. I feel like this phase the boss would have been better if it was harder to keep it busy. The Go Here function actually hurts here. It would have been more tense without it. Rocks are the best Pikmin to bring for the actual boss fight since they're immune to crushing and piercing. It was a very hard boss. The only reason I lost a lot of Pikmin was that sometimes he blocks you with different hazards, so you can't whistle your Pikmin. I also didn't know you had to break the non-glass hazards to beat him. I guarantee I would have lost infinitely less if I knew that. I also really like the idea of the Plasm Wraith obsessing obsessing over Olimar. It adds some mystery. Another mystery is how I haven't talked about the actual Pikmin in a Pikmin review. There are two new Pikmin types in this game, Winged and Rock. Rocks don't latch onto enemies and instead bounce off, but they make up for this by having very high impact damage. With red Pikmin, the strategy is to charge, but for rocks you're supposed to throw them. So it's risk-free damage comparable to charging with reds. Not that there's too much risk with charging, but still. I think it would have been better if they were charge focused instead of throw focused. That way them bouncing off is more of a downside since you can't repeatedly throw them. Maybe 15 damage on a throw and 25 to 30 on a charge. They did this in Pikmin 4 and it worked well. Though it's a little unfair to compare it to something the sequel did. Ideally, reds would be better for enemies with higher health, while rocks are better for quickly dealing with midweights. They're also immune to crushing and piercing, and can break glass, which is very useful for a lot of enemies. Winged Pikmin are really fucking good. They can travel on water and can carry things risk-free and faster because of the shortcuts they take. Wings are by far the best Pikmin for carrying things, and just the best Pikmin in the game. They're also the best option for flying enemies. They can charge in the air, which is kind of insane. The trade-off is that they do half damage, but when you're charging in the air, it hardly matters. There's also a myth for a while that they did increase damage to flying enemies, which should tell you how little the half damage matters. Spicy Spray also triples their damage. Now let's talk about returning Pikmin. Reds are pretty outclassed like I mentioned in the rock section. Why would you use reds in combat when you could just use rocks? Their fire immunity is decently useful, but it's not a game changer. Reds are better for dealing with pyroclasmic slooches or other fire enemies, but they can also be dealt with by rocks. If you want to use them, you definitely can, and they're optimal for some enemies, but they're pretty outclassed. Yellow Pikmin are a little better since there are plenty of electrical barriers and wires, but their throw height is outclassed by wings when you unlock them. They have more of a niche than reds, but they're just fine overall. Electricity also can't kill Pikmin at all, which is stupid. Definitely an overcorrection from Pikmin 2. However, they have fuse boxes that can light up light bulbs, which is a really cool mechanic. It's primarily used to activate these flowers, but it has a lot of potential. I'd love to see it back. Blues are the final type of the main campaign, and they're outclassed by wings. They have some fruit, but their role as the shortcut / water Pikmin has been taken over by wings. Even in their introductory section, wings are better for the majority of tasks. I wouldn't call them useless since they have 8 required fruits, which isn't awful, but they're the worst type in the main campaign. I would talk about purples or whites because this is primarily focused on the main campaign, but I'll talk about them if I rank every Pikmin. The areas themselves are more linear than the other games because you have an end goal, to beat the boss. The linearity is only a big issue in the Garden of Hope since a lot of it's blocked off. It does a good job teaching you the mechanics, like this part that shows the value of splitting up your captains. It does this twice actually, but it's pretty linear and there are definitely some moments where you just have to wait. That's why I take some issue with the linearity, by the way. I'm not stupid, linearity or non-linearity isn't a bad thing because I said so. It's that in Pikmin specifically having less options limits your multitasking, but that's probably because a large amount of the area is blocked off until later. I'm not saying the level design's bad, it's superb overall. When you come back to this area later, you can break electric gates with yellows, which allow you to get a good amount of fruits. All areas have fruits that require Pikmin you get later on, but the Garden of Hope is different. As a full proper area of the map blocked off until later. It's the Blue Pikmin tutorial, and it does a decent job. There are enemies that can snatch your wings out of the air, and multiple treasures and enemies that only blues can access or attack. Unfortunately, it's too small of an area to really impact blues' viability that much, but it is a good section. The distant tundra is probably the best designed area in the game. The map really opens up and you can multitask really effectively. Since there are more fruits, you can accomplish more at the same time. And to help ease you into this, they start the level by having the captains split up. This teaches you the advantages of splitting up your captains and accomplishing multiple tasks at the same time. It also has the fuse boxes, which are a really creative idea, but I discussed that earlier. It's a super good Pikmin area. Tropical Wilds continues the momentum from the previous area. It introduces bomb rocks, which are really effective against the boss and the calcified Crushblat. The Crushblat cheese is a little lame, but the other applications are really fun. They add on to the previous lessons about splitting up your captains and multitasking by some decision making and optimization opportunities with the stone walls of when to open up up the shortcut, or if to do it at all. And the puzzles get more complex, like this one that requires the yellow's throw height. I wouldn't call them hard, but they're a step up in terms of complexity. The Twilight River is a slight step down from the previous two. It has a lot of things I like about it. However, the lily pads are pretty slow, but they would have been a lot worse without Go Here. I would still classify it as a negative though. Another negative people have with this game is the difficulty. I didn't mind the lack of difficulty that much. I play Pikmin for the multitasking and exploration. Easy combat isn't a huge deal for me, but it's considerably easier than 1 and 2. The worst change is that bulb orbs are a joke now. Just hit them in the eyes and they're stunned. I really like the idea of enemy weak points, but this isn't the right way to go about it. The other enemies are better though. Their designs are really creative. Pyroclasmic slooches really help the reds since they're much faster at taking them down than rocks. Bearded Amprats work well as electric enemies since you'll probably lose some Pikmin if you just spam rocks. Fiery Blowhogs and Wallywogs are the same but easier. Actually, a lot of the enemies are easy. There are some encounters I really like though. Here there are like 70 orange bulb orbs. I tried to get the fruit pass, but they woke up and I lost a lot of Pikmin. I ended up not having enough wings to bring everything back. I wish there were more encounters like this. Another one was this Bulbear surrounded by a lot of other enemies. It wasn't as hard as the previous one, but it was a lot more interesting than the typical fights you'll see in this game. Limiting some of your options occasionally can also help. Like here where you need to fight this peckish aristocrat with wings and blues only. It is cheesable if you use bombs, but it was a good encounter anyway. Other than those encounters, the enemies are pretty easy. Hermit Crawdads can snatch a couple Pikmin, but they're not an issue. I don't mind this too much. Being easy is one of the most mild crimes a game can commit. I still would have appreciated some more difficulty. In Pikmin 1, you also had the day limit to add challenge, which was cut in the sequel, which was controversial. Pikmin 3's juice system tries to find a compromise. Juice is very forgiving, so assuming you get a fruit a day, you'll be fine. But initially, players might feel that pressure, and that would get them into the Pikmin groove. For experienced players, it's basically like there's no time limit at all, but I think it does a decent job getting new players to have more fun. Plus, you still want to beat as much as you can in a day, because that's how the day system works. But again, the juice system is very generous. I finished the game with 50 bottles remaining. I like time pressure mechanics, but not having a limit isn't a bad thing. Functionally, Pikmin 1's system works better, but 3's is less overwhelming for new players. Now we're at the conclusion. I did spend a good amount of this review talking about the negatives or neutral points, but this is a fantastic game. The issues I mentioned are pretty minor, but if they were fixed, this game could have been way better. It's a very balanced game. That's also its weakness. There aren't as many flaws as some of the other games, but it doesn't reach the highs of those other games. It's a pure and ultra-refined Pikmin experience, but does have one aspect you could say, hey, that's phenomenal. If your favorite Mario game is 3D World or Galaxy, this will probably be your favorite Pikmin. I personally prefer higher highs, even at the expense of some other areas. But are you hearing me? Oh yeah, it's only a ultra-polished Pikmin experience. God, this game sucks. And I'm comparing it to 3D World and Galaxy, which are both top 5 Mario games. Yeah, it's amazing. 9.4 out of 10. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'm partway through Pikmin 2 while writing this, so expect a review of that game in the future. Also, I'm doing a Half-Life 2 review. Don't worry, I'm not switching to Half-Life content. And the next video will be a Mario video. Bye.